Influencers will be banned from spruiking free junk food and viral energy drinks on TikTok and Instagram under proposed laws to tighten food advertising on social media. Independent Dr. Sophie Scamps will today introduce a bill to Parliament. She joins me now live. Doctor, thank you for your time. What are you calling for?
So, yes, today in my Healthy Kids advertising bill, I am calling for greater protections for our children against harmful junk food advertising. So that would mean that online and on social media, there would be a complete ban of junk food advertising, including, as you said, influencers being paid to promote unhealthy food products, and also time restrictions on TV and radio between the hours of 6 a.m. and 9:30 p.m. And this is very similar to what is going to be implemented in the UK next year.
So 6 a.m. to 9:30 p.m, that's quite a broad scope. Why these hours? Why not just in the morning or after school?
Well, we know that children don't only watch children's TV. They sit down with the family in the evening and watch family shows. They watch the footy, they watch all sorts of things. And so there needs to be a complete period where we're not being bombarded and our children are not being bombarded with these unhealthy foods. And we know how absolutely powerful that incessant pestering is. So it's something that parents are calling for. They need support. Parents want their children to be able to have healthy lives. They don't want them to face a life of chronic disease. And we know that being above the healthy weight range is really the major cause of chronic disease in this country. So we're looking at prevention rather than cure right at the end of the journey.
And you mentioned influencers. What role do they play in this advertising?
Well, we know influencers are very influential. That's why they're called influencers. And they're being paid to promote and eat unhealthy products and then challenge their followers to do the same thing. And sometimes it's not just eating it, it's gorging on it. It's eating as much as possible. So that's just another form of marketing that needs to be looked at and regulated.
We know that there have been so many pushes in the past to ban junk food ads, particularly in those hours where children are watching. Why do you think that this will have a chance of getting up?
Look, I think there's a real appetite now for, looking at harmful advertising and how it's affecting our society. We're already having a conversation around gambling, and this is another really important conversation that we need to have. For too long, it's been blamed on individual, risk and, that type of thing. But we absolutely know we've got 2/3 of our population, 2/3 of the adult population who are overweight or obese, and 1/4 of children. So with those really high levels, we know it's not an individual problem. It's a societal problem that needs a societal response. And I think that our society is ready for change. We've seen 40 countries around the world already introduce regulations or about to introduce regulations. And as I said, the UK is about to introduce best practice, protections for their young people. And this was done by Boris Johnson, who is led a conservative government. So if they can do it, we 100% can do it here as well.
All right, it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. I want to ask you about some new modelling released today by the Pharmacy Guild, suggesting some 660 pharmacies will have to close because of the government's planned 60-day dispensing policy. Where do you sit on these reforms?
Look, I see that there needs to be a balance between the patient's needs and the community pharmacy needs. And we absolutely know that the 60-day dispensing will benefit patients. As you know, I was a GP, and I know that with just the 30 days dispensing, it meant that there was often a break for patients in between. They couldn't get back to the pharmacy either because of disability or just because we live very busy lives. I know I can't get to the pharmacy every month. So we need to balance those needs and the cost of living for patients with the needs of pharmacies. And the last thing we want to see is, a reduction in services for pharmacies and a cut to jobs. But we've seen this implemented quite successfully in other countries around the world. And also it's heartening to hear that the government, any savings that the government made, will reinvest into the pharmacy sector. But again, we need to look at how there needs to be modelling to show how this will affect pharmacies. And if it is going to affect pharmacies in that way, then there needs to be some compensation for that.
Do you believe that it will indeed make it easier for people? I mean, we are in the midst of a cost of living crisis. That's the number one thing on people's minds. So do you think that these reforms will actually help?
100% it will help. There'll be hundreds of dollars of savings for patients by the end of the year. And also, it's just a convenience thing. It is very difficult to get to the pharmacy every month. And we know that that break in taking medications is really important for patients. And we've got to avoid that as much as possible. You know, we can't have a week break or whatever just, because people can't get back to the pharmacy in time.
Dr. Sophie Scamps, appreciate your time. We'll leave it there. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.